started, Frank, and get this.
This is for everything.
That's right.
Yeah.
What you do more meetings?
Good. I've been to text him to say get in here, but I'm sure he feels the vibes. The little vibes. Yeah, I know that's this thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, tell me you're ready then. Think we're ready to go? Frank, we're good?
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, on this almost first day of spring, that Friday, right? Welcome. We'll call this meeting to order. And there's Ben. Now we can really stop. And we think Wendy's on her way. But
Someone just pulled out.
someone just pulled, we'll call that. So, let's go ahead, and we were sent minutes from, we have two meetings, in the fall. We had a November 20th regular meeting and then a December 11th special meeting. So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the November 20th, 2025 and the December 11th, 2025 meetings. Okay, thank you, Ryan. Is there a second? Thank you. Oh, Monica. Quick. We've met Monica on screen. Monica was able to be here in person. So once again, some of you are still meeting Monica on screen. And we're thrilled to have her. She's had a tough fall. And again, appreciate your sticking with us. Okay, so a motion by Ryan, a second by Monica. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstains? Okay, and stand approved those two meetings. We'll roll into Food Center Authority updates, and I'll punt to Katie.
Great. And Frank, can I have you pull those slides up? So the last time we had our full regularly scheduled meeting in November, we talked about the need to do some strategic planning. I know that that's a conversation the board had before I was hired also. So I'm gonna give you just a little bit of an update in terms of what we've been up to on that front and then what we have planned next. Go ahead to the next slide. So just to be really clear, when we're talking about scope here, I'm imagining this to be a 5-year plan. So 2027 seems like it's a long way away, but in government terms, it is July 1. So the goal here is to cover 2027 to 2032. This is meant to be a comprehensive plan that covers and balances all of our existing developments. This isn't just a produce market plan. This isn't just an MMC plan. This isn't just a Rock Hall plan. But takes into account all three of those facilities, as well as our ground leases, and as well as opportunities for the future. But we do specifically want it to speak to the need about produce modernization that we've all talked about for a really long time. The idea here is that this gives some clarity as we start thinking about additional acquisitions or other sort of future changes. Right now, I think those opportunities come up and folks talk about them, but we don't really have a way to say, is this consistent with where we want to go as an organization? And then the last piece that I think is really important across the board here is this plan has to be something we can do, and it has to be grounded in some sort of financial reality. I get the sense that there's been a lot of conversations in the past and a lot of really good ideas put forward in the past that we've had no way to pay for. And so we've got to think about this in terms of essentially the authority's current financials, but also the current political climate when we look at funding, both in terms of state, county, also federal. So that's sort of the big picture. Next slide, Frank. All right, here's this general framework to getting to a plan. Right now, we've been working a lot on information gathering and reviewing information that was already in hand. 3 major areas I'll talk a little bit more about, or going through an organizational assessment, going through a landscape assessment, and planning out some really intentional stakeholder engagement. The goal is to essentially complete that work between now and the June board meeting. And then also before the June board meeting, synthesize that information and come to you with some prospective goals to discuss in June. Then after we get your feedback and think through what those big picture goals might look like, then the period between June and September is to build out the actual strategy. What's the work plan? How do we do that? How do we actually make these things happen? And then at the September meeting, the goal would be to present the board with a full strategic plan for discussion, for feedback, and then we would finalize and then get to work. So that's the timeline, that's the sort of broad beats of what we're doing here. Next slide, please. So a little bit more of what we have been working on. I think we've probably spent the most time thus far on an organizational assessment. Part of that has been me getting here and getting my feet under me, but a few specific things. There's been quite a lot of analysis done over the last 20 years in the market. So reviewing what's been done to date, taking a look at how we're staffed, what job duties are. Our HR manager, Hanu, and I have spent a really long time reviewing our HR policies and sort of our internal operating policies from a staff perspective. I know that that was something that folks had tasked me with when I was hired, was reviewing those policies. And so we're about at the finish line. In fact, our HR colleagues at DGS and MDA are taking one last review to make sure that we are consistent with state policies in general, and in the places where we're not, we have a really good operational reason for not being consistent. The other thing is we are in the process of getting completed facility condition assessments on this on Maryland Market Center, the wholesale produce market, and this building. We have 2 of those in hand and are awaiting the 3rd. We also have a draft market rent study that's been completed. Ryan has kindly agreed to help us review those documents as those come in, given his background. Gary and his team have also been taking a hard look at our current market rules and our tenant advisory board procedures to make sure that those make sense and continue to function well. And then we've started to engage with the Maryland Economic Development Corporation on financing options, because back to that financial realities question, I think folks have talked about debt in the future, but we haven't actually put numbers to it. So they've agreed to do some modeling for us. We've provided some financial information, and we're going to provide some additional financial information. Up next is taking a good look at our current leases, terms of our lease, and also taking a look at our leasing policies. As a reminder, our leases are approved at a regular interval by the Board of Public Works. So Ben will, come bug in your team as we go through that process. You all have been engaged as we've done budgets and looked at our financial statements in the past, but I expect in the coming months to do an additional deeper dive into our financials. And then something we've talked about in the past, but timelines we haven't gotten there quite yet, is to work with Medco on a demand study in terms of what demand would look like for an expanded produce market.
So like Vancouver.
John Janakis primarily, but there's been a handful of folks. He's been sort of the main point of contact, but there's been quite a few folks that have been involved. Next slide, please. And then on the landscape assessment, this is more looking at what do our peers in the industry, what is the broader industry thinking, doing, how do we fit in a very timely way. USDA's Ag Marketing Service just published a survey and some accompanying studies that they commissioned with Cornell and the National Association of Produce Market Managers, where they surveyed wholesale produce markets about their current challenges and current opportunities. And I will say, we all are in the very same boat. There was a lot of conversation in that publication, and I'm happy to share that with the board in case it's helpful context too. But a lot of conversation about aging infrastructure, a lot of conversation about shifting market trends, shifting food safety standards, differing customer preferences. Essentially, everything that came up in that is generally applicable to us. So I don't know if that makes things better or for worse, but at least we're not alone in this process. We have also restarted our membership with the World Union of Wholesale Markets and are going to look to engage more specifically with them soon. I've been in contact with some other market managers and will continue to do that. Have also been reviewing the process that led to Philadelphia's renovation. And then folks might have seen recently, just at the end of December, the mayor of New York announced a significant investment into Hunts Point. They're calling for a $400 and some million plan to completely renovate Hunts Point. And then Detroit's Eastern Market is one that's a little older, but they've had some major renovations as well. So we've been looking through both what they did and why they did it, but also how did they finance that work. And then just looking across broader, beyond just produce, what are the broader economic trends and forces impacting wholesale food distributors? What does that mean for our tenants? Because then what does that mean for us? And so up next, looking to engage with some other industry associations. One specifically is the International Fresh Produce Association. I know that before Produce Marketing Association and United Fresh Produce merged, I think prior to that, MFCA had engaged in various ways, but we're looking to restart the conversation there a bit, though we'll consult with the board before we pick up any new memberships. Also, this has been talking really about operations and our markets, but we also exist as an independent state agency. And so we'll be talking to other independent state agencies for things like you'll hear in a moment. We have a lot of cybersecurity requirements that we are adjusting to, things that are going to impact how we staff, how we spend money, how we operate as an agency. And then we'll continue to connect with additional markets as well, as we kind of rebuild this peer group and understand how other folks are addressing similar challenges. Next slide. And so then one of the big pieces to come between now and June is a little more formal stakeholder engagement process. And so I've had a bunch of informal introductions. I've had a bunch of get to know you type conversations. But the next step is putting a little more rigor around what are we asking? Who are we asking? How are we going about this process? I think those of you who have been involved in strategic planning processes in the past, like folks love a survey, folks love a questionnaire. I think that works in some circles. I don't know that works super well for our tenants, for example, as we've seen with our annual survey. And so I think a lot of this is going to be meeting folks where they are, but having some really clear questions that we want answers to in terms of how they're thinking about the future and what how folks see us as a partner or not today, and then how we can grow together. And as part of this too, it's also building that map to longer term engagement. So if folks are just interacting with us for the first time or the first time in a few years now, how do we keep those relationships so that when we're into that implementation phase, we've got a good network of partners who are working with us. Next slide, please. And then here's some of the big buckets of folks that we're thinking about. It's a little bit of a lot of people. Obviously, first and foremost are our tenants and our ground lease holders. Next after that, prospective tenants, then the broader industries that supply them and the broader industries that they supply. Certainly don't want to lose sight of the importance of our government stakeholders, both from a peer perspective where we can learn best practices, but also the folks that regulate us and the folks who might spur our economic development or partner with us. Certainly want to tap into the resources of the University of Maryland and other academic organizations as we think about how folks are learning about regional supply chain design and food systems. And then we've got sort of that broader network around food systems, including hunger and nutrition groups. And then one of the things, we've had good conversations with Howard County and others thus far, but we want to make sure that we are a good citizen in this broader Jessup community and that we're engaging more broadly with the public, because whether it's money derived from rent or not, ultimately this is a resource of the state of Maryland, and we want to be accountable to the public. Next slide. Last slide, I believe. So that's all to say, that's where we are. That's how I'm thinking about this right now. But would really love your thoughts and quite frankly, your resources and connections. If there are papers or models or things that you've seen used successfully or you see and it makes you think of us, please send it my way. And if there are folks you think we should be talking to as part of this process, please also send names my way. So that's the update on strategic planning. Questions, comments, thoughts?
I'm almost excited about this now. Darren will know I'm usually a naysayer on strategic planning, but I know that Darren's group, the college and extension just went through this process. So I think some of your input, Darren, will be really timely on some of the stuff items that you will work through.
I have shared some with Katie already.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? I know this is sometimes a little bit like a root canal, but I think it's also an exciting part. So.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. And just to clarify, you guys aren't bringing in like a consultant to do any of this or?
So we haven't at this point, and I am always of two minds on that. I've seen consultants add a ton of value and do really, really useful things, and I've also seen consultants be really, really expensive.
Yeah.
And give you a generic product. And so if there are recommendations for specific consultants that have been really effective, I happily have those conversations because we are not bursting with staff capacity right now.
Right.
Quite frankly. But at the same time, I would want to make sure that that's something that's totally good about.
Well, you know, if like Philadelphia or Detroit or Hunts Point has done a strategic plan as consultants, maybe there's you know like us.
Yeah, I don't know if they've used consultants or not.
So that's. And Darren, the last round with extension, did extension in the college use a consultant or?
Yeah, Darren shared.
Benton did, yes.
Okay. And that's a little bit bigger beast because it's a complicated college, trust me. Been there, left there.
And Katie and Gail, we are walking through a very large master plan exercise at DGS right now. But the broker contract that I have in place for our Office of Real Estate, they do strategic planning, and I'm not saying they have capacity under our DGS contract, but I'm sure they would be happy to sit down and just hear your process and make recommendations. That would be
Great. That would be great.
A friend, not a consultant. Like maybe for free. Or.
well,
lots.
for free.
Okay,
Through my connection,
Yeah.
you know, understanding this is something DGS supports, I think they would be happy to sit down. Just hear about your process, look at it from their perspective, make recommendations, if they have resources in-house that can share high-level recommendations, all of that for free. I just don't know that they could through my contract.
Understood.
The only thing we get out of them for free is kind of a strategic plan for our leasing portfolio. They look at that, but yeah, but just to
That would
give
be
you
wonderful.
guys.
outside eyes.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Do you know the brokerage firm?
CBR. Yeah, they're a global firm. Yeah.
Wonderful.
CBRE.
Any other thoughts at this point? And I think we're also maybe at the point of just jotting notes for ourselves about some dreams and ideas on down the road. Now that Monica is physically joined us, as well as on screen. We need to learn more about your program and maybe some opportunities for the interaction. I know we talked about that literally a year ago before you agreed to apply to be on the board. So those notes are somewhere not hidden, in my little milk crate in my office somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So recently in the news, the blue catfish debate, and new legislation potentially to increase the harvest for animal processing consumption as well as the ongoing effort for human consumption. So just generically speaking, how tapped are we into legislation that involves food? And are we at the table for those conversations, or do we have avenue for feedback? You know, just things of that nature, just curious.
Yeah, so I'll say I'm definitely aware of the blue catfish issue, but probably honestly more aware from my previous role than here, and we haven't been engaged or participating necessarily in those conversations. Kathy, I don't know if you want to speak from an MBA perspective.
Sure, so a few things, last year, I think it was in August, Secretary Addix joined Secretary Rollins down at Tillman Island Seafood on the Eastern Shore, where USDA announced funding for our processors to expand operations. And I think just yesterday or the day before, USDA released information on those grants, and BSA Seafood received $1 million. BSA is located on the Eastern Shore. They're one of our processors. And then from the MDA side, we received $2 million from USDA that we're giving to food banks to purchase blue catfish. So the Western Maryland Food Bank, and Capital Area all received funding to purchase blue catfish. And then are you talking more specifically about the Laws Act at the federal level?
I believe that's what I was recently reading about.
Okay.
It was a controversial shift to include animal food processing of the invasive species.
And I think Congresswoman Alford is the sponsor of that.
Yeah, at least that's what the Capital newspaper said,
Yeah,
and I believe.
we're
that.
not, we're involved like peripherally, like we're monitoring it, but I don't think we're taking a position in any, federal legislative conversations go through the governor's federal office. So I know that our team has flagged it for them, just like, hey, keep an eye on this because it, mentions blue catfish and we obviously are trying to like move as much out of the bay as possible, but we don't have a formal position.
Do we know if any of our tenants are working with blue catfish?
I recall some frustration on Mark Powell's point of asking that question over the past couple of years. And I don't know if conversations happened with any of our seafood folks, if they could modify their units, I guess, or introduce no cross contamination, but it is different equipment, I understand.
And you have to have a USDA.
Oh, okay, on site.
So catfish is really, really weird from a regulatory perspective from all of their seafood.
Yeah.
And so my understanding is in the broader area, we have Maryland seafood processors handling blue catfish. I don't know for certain that we have anyone at our market currently.
Yeah, I think in the area, JJ and Reliant both
Okay.
process blue catfish. And then on the Eastern Shore, it's BSA and Tillman Island Seafood. So
And-
it's just-
Yeah, the tweak that's really different is because catfish is the only seafood under USDA inspection. It requires continuous inspection, and so you have to have an inspector on site all the time, and it's a very different food safety structure than the rest of seafood production.
Got it, yeah, that type of potential legislation and things of that nature, I think that's what we wanna try to track for, the market potential for tenants. And one of the things that we should look at when we're doing renovations and remodeling the overall market and maybe what's coming into the pipeline as far as, demand and supply opportunities.
Good point. And that really is just been in the paper, I think, this week.
Yeah,
So we'll start that kind of laundry list of things that we need to make sure we either incorporate or don't incorporate into some of those strategic ideas. I do recall Mark Powell's frustration. 3 or 4 years ago, when we all fell in love with blue catfish, because it is delicious.
It is delicious.
It is delicious.
So Reliant was the company that that did catfish for us at the Taste of Maryland this past year. Tillman did it here before, Reliant did it this year. Again, it was like whatever you want. Yeah, like 100 pounds of catfish. And
not trying to get too technical, but why is it specialized like that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, okay,
I grew up on the Eastern Shore and I caught catfish in my backyard
so
on the Chester River.
So I will say that these are my views and not any sort of official legislative history. But it goes back to the 2002 Farm Bill, when Senator Cochran from Mississippi, was a very pro fish senator. And the Mississippi delegation and several of the southern delegations were very, very pro catfish. And there was a concern that the US catfish production was being undercut by international suppliers. And so there was a thought that a more level regulatory playing field would be to move catfish inspection from FDA to USDA. And so it was done by very, very specific legislation. And there's lots of fun debates you can watch and resources that we're happy to share if you want to see it. But it is a decades old congressional fight that folks have had going back and forth for a while specific to catfish.
And it's still delicious. It is. Oh, well, good, well, thank you, and yeah, we'll put a pin in that, so to speak. That's on your wish list, to keep that conversation going. Okay, anything else on strategic planning, my friends on the screen? And Carlton, you're always worried about food safety, so I know that's already on our laundry list.
Yeah, that's fine. I was pleased with what I saw in the strategic plan process in terms of the incorporation of, with food safety and everything. So there's a lot of information that still needs to come in before I can weigh in on stuff. So in other words, and I really hate reinventing the wheel. If another organization has a great model, yeah, let's steal it, So that's why I'm holding back.
Alrighty, next update from you on the investment policy.
So the investment policy is something that I think you all talked about even before I got here, in that we as an independent authority need one. And so the conversation that I believe Carlton, Miriam, and Mary had in advance of our last meeting was to review some of the options that were available to us. And their recommendation was that we sign on to the state of Maryland investment policy and officially make it our investment policy. I think that's good for a couple of reasons. One, because the state has developed a very robust policy. Two, because all of the funds of the MFCA are already held in state bank accounts. And so what we're looking for here is for you all to ask any questions you might have, but then also officially to adopt this policy. So this is the same recommendation you heard about in November. The investment policy is in your books and was sent out earlier in the week. And then I believe we are required to then renew this designation on an annual basis.
You're just supposed to review the determination.
Okay.
That's back. This is the back part of our booklet today.
Yes.
Yes.
And then just one point of clarification, I remember Mary saying at the time, and I expect this is still the case, it's all the MFCA funds except for like $3,000 petty cash.
Mhm.
But everything else is already held by the state in general funds and already being invested pursuant to the state's policy, so this is just formalizing what it's sort of like if the MFCA wanted to do its own independent thing, it would just need to adopt a separate policy. The determination of the.
What do you mean by that? The MFCA could say we want to manage
Yes,
this
the
ourselves?
MFCA could say, we want to manage this ourselves, and then there are certain requirements for how funds can be invested, and like certain kinds of accounts, certain things are not permitted, and so then if the MFCA determined it wanted to invest on its own, like some independent agencies that have substantially more funds do invest on their own, they have their own investment advisor, and they have a policy that sets forth how they invest those funds. But the MFCA's funds comparatively are not at the level of some of those other independent.
What are?
So I think the MFCA has about 10 million, I don't want to speak out of turn. Yeah, 10 million-ish, and then the other entity, I don't have it, the health and there's an entity that does education, and they have health and education, and they have substantially more funds. I want to say somewhere in the area of like several hundred million, and they have separate investment advisors. And they're a separate policy that sets out how those funds are invested.
And I would note that the state has done a good job managing our funds, and our returns have been relatively high and consistent.
And that
So it's
was,
not like we could go these other funds, like jump in with them.
Correct.
And return to necessarily.
Correct. So like the state pension system probably has their own
Yes, they do. So
Okay.
yes, the state pension system has their
I like
own
that little monthly
um,
letter.
capital planning.
Okay.
Parks, whatever, Parks and
Parks
Planning.
and
Committee
What
have
about like
their-
ed code? They,
I imagine they do. I don't have a copy of their policy. I can check.
just wanna see how their returns.
Are there any concerns with liquidity, with transitioning?
So this would essentially be a continuation of our current practices, which I think is very good in terms of us maintaining the liquidity we would need if there was some horrible event that occurred us to spend a large amount of money. And so I think while it is legally possible for us to come up with other means, I think from a staff recommendation, we would really like to continue using the state policy.
And then I guess with that annual review option, that's why you do an annual review. Then find the better deal.
So the opt-in, opt-out is annual. When you review, you have the chance to opt out of the state policy.
Correct. So there's a requirement in the law that the agencies review, in our case, the authority, review annually its policy, and so at that annual review step, you could decide that you no longer want to invest with the state and set up something different, and then the authority would have to put in place its own policy.
On the other end, I'm assuming that investing with another provider will have some costs.
Correct.
Or
Yes.
strain on extra work on staff
Correct.
as well.
We would need to retain a financial advisor and.
And it is. So the return
Mhm.
has to consider that part as well.
Okay, I would encourage all of us to read through this in between basketball games this weekend. Because it is important, I don't know that we've seen this full document before, we've referenced it a lot. But I think if there aren't any other questions for Katie, I would entertain a motion to adopt the investment policy of the state of Maryland as the official investment policy of MFCA and review this policy on an annual basis.
One more question.
Yeah.
When are the annual reviews before the end of the fiscal year?
So what I would tag it to is essentially our March meeting going forward, because then we could then make a change at the fiscal year if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? So I need a motion, again, to adopt the state policy for the MFCA and then the agreement of reviewing it annually.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Is there a second? Okay, Monica, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Screen. Alrighty, all in favor, say aye. Same sign. Okay, and we've lost Aaron, so that's okay. So we still have quorum. So the motion, any abstentions? Alrighty, so we have adopted that. And we'll just put a note for next March, it'll be on the agenda. We have to look at it over again. Again, another one of those that as you read through it, if there are questions, make note and we'll then do some research. Alrighty, produce modernization, our other favorite.
Yeah, so we talked an awful lot about produce modernization in December, so the update today is short. We have been working with our architect and engineers over the last several months to update the drawings to specifically focus on fire suppression and electrical system upgrades. We have finally gotten the good news that that process is almost done and those drawings are going to be submitted to the county in the next week or two. And so then we anticipate going out for bid on that work in April.
So it's a fire suppression and what else?
Electrical.
Electric, oh yeah. Great.
And the good news is folks are not foreseeing any concerns in terms of county permitting because the county had previously approved the much more challenging plans. And the county is in fact who would like us to get up to code on this.
That will be on fast track.
Yep.
Hopefully. Tenant issues. Is that you or
Yeah.
Gary?
Well, Gary should certainly share additional thoughts, but I think at our last meeting, we talked about how important it was to make sure that the issues, the kind of cross-cutting issues we're hearing from tenants, make sure that they are raised in board meetings and that you all have good awareness into some of the challenges and opportunities we're hearing in the market. Couple of things. First, we have weathered two snowstorms, one much more significant than the other in the market. Snow is a really important issue to tenants because obviously we are a 24/7 market. And so if the snow is falling, our folks are trying to remove snow as quickly as possible to keep the markets operating. At the same time, if and when snow comes beyond what we can essentially clear in-house, we have to incur some significant expenses to bring in third-party help to again keep the market operating. My priority as we look at our snow policy in general is that we're keeping folks safe and that we have a safe market for everyone to operate in. In our last storm, Gary and Martin and the maintenance team did an absolutely fantastic job. They cleared all of the snow themselves, so the tenants did not incur any additional expenses, but man, they worked really hard doing it. And so I think that's something that you all might hear us talking about in the future is making sure that we know we have the third party help available if we need it. And there is some cost to that. And so we need to think about how we do that in a way that's transparent with the tenants, but also make sure that we have a safe and operating market. The tenants have formed a snow committee so that they can provide their perspective and thoughts on our snow removal procedures. The folks who have volunteered for that know that they might be getting middle of the night phone calls from Gary. So they know what's happening from a snow perspective. But in general, the operations team shared expectations for tenants to move vehicles and to be ready to help us do a good job removing the snow. And by and large, folks were really cooperative and that's gone well this year, and knock on wood, no more snow. Gary, anything else you want to say on snow?
No, just I wanna reiterate what she said about Martin's team. It was Martin's team that did it.
Okay, yeah. And I also want to make sure folks know that we also have security staff throughout the entirety of both snowstorms, and we provide hotel space for those folks so that they don't have to travel during the snowstorm. But just really want to acknowledge the dedication of both security and maintenance teams because they were here and they kept the markets going. Other flag, feral cats in the market is a perennial issue. We are planning to work with a local rescue who has actually received some MDA funds to do trap, neuter, and release. They are hoping to hopefully find some horse farm placements for some of the working cats that are currently at the market. This is obviously a tough issue where we are trying to take a compassionate approach to folks who then also have food safety audit concerns with cats on the dock. So we're really happy to have found a rescue who wants to work with us in this process. And then last thing I want to make folks aware of, two more things, is that one of the persistent issues we're hearing about from tenants are concerns that there are companies that are operating improperly in the market. And what I mean by that are companies that are coming in saying that they are buying product from one of our tenants, and in most cases they likely are, but they are then in turn selling to other tenants. And our rules generally are you have to rent space in the market to sell things. And you can imagine that this is when the market is really busy, it is really, really hard to tell who is where and who is selling what and moving product on behalf of whom. Gary has changed his schedule, so he's getting here at 3 a.m. multiple days a week so that we have better eyes on peak busyness in the market. We've had some really tough conversations with a couple companies already and plan to have more of those so that it is incredibly clear what the policies of the market are. But I want you all to be aware of that this is a problem. And in some cases, this work is happening because tenants or employees of tenants are assisting in the process. And so this is something that we will have to think about as an organization, how we address, because there has to be real consequences or this will continue. So I just want that to be on your radar for right now. And then the last thing, just wanted to make you aware of, and I talked about it a little bit as part of strategic planning process, is making sure that our tenant advisory boards are set up to be as effective as possible, and really give folks an opportunity to bring issues to the front of mind. We've had 3 TAB meetings since I've started. We're committed to doing them at least quarterly, and can do them more often when issues arise. But one of the things I'm trying to think through is, do we have formal bylaws or more structure to make clear when a tenant proposes an issue, how do we actually follow up and act on those things? There's been some inconsistencies over the past that we're trying to clear up. And then the last thing on tenant advisory board is we have had some interest now from Maryland Market Center tenants in reestablishing a tab. And that is a right of their lease as well. And so we are working through to think through that process and how we ensure that they are also getting the information they need. Gary, anything you want to add to any of that or other issues with tenants you want to share?
No, you covered it pretty well.
Gary, do they have any version of what I would call operational guidelines for this advisory board?
Do they have any?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be a starting point that maybe just needs to be reviewed, updated.
Yeah, Jennifer is actually
Oh, okay.
doing all that stuff. She's looking through a lot of it. We're changing some stuff at the gates to better accommodate some of the tenants.
Okay,
Like you say, it's mostly the employees of outside companies that are bringing product in as like, I'll do this favor for you, you do this favor for me. That's what I found. But, you know, the tenants are working really well. You have a few of them that are reporting stuff and it's going real well.
so have they been surprised to see you at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, they're, and the ones that are doing wrong, slam doors and shut trucks and run away. I mean, but they've gotten used to me now, they all wave and I don't know if they're doing it earlier or doing it later, but I'm catching it still, so it's been good.
My husband's on the ship, he always appreciated the CO that would show up on the mid-watch, and sometimes bring coffee and donuts, or sometimes just walk through the back rows, and it made a big impression, so.
I won't do that.
We'll get you like, swag. Okay, so that's a work in progress.
Yes.
That's very good. Alrighty,
Got a question.
Oh,
On the third party selling going on. Then, so we're not talking about tenant to tenant changes of goods. We're talking about third party coming in, buying from one supplier and then selling to another, buying from one tenant and selling to another tenant.
Well, so there's 2 ways. So it's an outside company gets a tenant employee bringing product for them as far as to deliver to a person on the dock or to sell on the dock. And the other part of it is sometimes it's a person will, company will buy from a tenant. Now they own the product and then they'll sell it to one of our other tenants. So it's kind of, it's a complicated situation and it involves us being more in the tenant space. And I mean, it's like I said, it's going well, it's complicated. I mean, I could definitely sit down with you and explain more in detail of what we do, but we consider what you just said cross dock.
Okay. Cross-stocking.
that's the truth.
Do you think that if the tenants were communicating better with each other, they could cut out the cross-stocking and work with each other instead of having the middleman?
So, some of the tenants participate in the problem, so they are communicating.
They are.
With the outside vendor. It's not communicating with, you know, if they're not selling a certain product, they're not worried about that product.
So that could be another point of profit for them,
Yes, correct.
but we don't allow it.
No, we don't.
Cause they're not renting space.
They don't leave space in the market, no.
We're not, I don't know what, we're not renting space to a matchmaker.
Correct. Yes.
Do you think there's a solution that would continue their, I guess, profitability, but make it legal?
Make it legal.
Or
No,
make
because
it,
we wouldn't want
in
to,
compliance with our rules.
no, we wouldn't want, we don't want this in our market, because we want our tenants who pay the rent to, or pay for the lease to, sell product, not people from the outside to come and sell product.
And the other thing is so when we have tenants take up residence in our space, we are verifying that they're meeting food safety requirements, we're verifying that they are licensed by PACA. That there are certain, expectations a customer should be able to have if they're buying from our market. And so if it's a third party that we have no idea is selling, we can't make those assurances about them either.
Do you have any signage, like, I'm just throwing these words out.
Yeah, no problem, yeah.
Not a farmer's market, it must be intended to sell.
Well, and we've talked about as we're updating the rules, how do we recirculate the rules and how do we make it so that there's no chance of plausible deniability at any part? And so, and we have a lot of signage. I don't know if we have signage that explicitly says that, but we've talked about posting market rules in a common area too, just so it's on the wall essentially. It's a few page document, so it's but that's some of what we've been talking about because I think it's one of those things where it just like pops up here and then goes away and then it pops up there. And so it's, I think to Gary's point, like unless you are standing there reading an invoice, it can be challenging to track.
And the more tenants that get involved in realizing that there's money being taken out of their pockets, there's more and more getting involved. They're starting to see it.
Okay. I think there's some validity, my children live on what was a former horse sporting farm in Pennsylvania. And they have more biosecurity signs from the state of Pennsylvania. There are no horses on the property anymore. But the signs are still up and it's a reminder that no, biosecurity is important. Whatever we're gonna call this, no cross docking, I equate that to biosecurity. Put your booties on or get off my farm. So. Anyway,
And we're
what do
taking.
signs cost? Not much. Signs by tomorrow. They went out of business, but they've been replaced by somebody. So.
And we're taking a few other steps, like where we've asked tenants to verify the list of badge holders that can get into the market without speaking to security. To make sure that we don't have old employees on the rolls or anybody who shouldn't be there, right? We're thinking about policies in terms of who can use that center lane. That doesn't require interacting with security. So we're trying to think about this from a few different angles.
Yeah, I'm scratching my head. We probably do need to talk offline. I just don't understand why would a tenant want to engage in that, because they're gonna pay more from interior third party than they would directly from the other tenant.
That is the $1 million question.
Well,
I
and
wish I could answer it.
and it's not
We can talk.
necessarily tenants, it's employees.
It's
of those
employees of
tenants.
those.
So if an employee's getting some kind of a kickback,
Yeah.
it makes total sense. Yeah, I mean, I could see that happening, so I'm not sure if, I'm the same way, I'm like, well, tenant to tenant, that doesn't make any sense, but it's not, it's an employee.
In
That's
some
making
cases.
sort of money.
Well, we appreciate your new alarm clock. Your vigilance, so.
You need a nap or?
You need that, right? It's just like the end of your workday down here, so we'll speak this long. Okay. And then we'll shift to Anya for cybersecurity.
Oh, all right. So Maryland introduced a new suite of cybersecurity policies, right? And I've been working with Miriam and also do it, trying to understand we are required now to do. And I also want to point out that you're a small agency, we are non-funded, you have a small staff, we are using an independent IT consultant. So we may request additional funds in the future to meet those new requirements that are coming out, right?
Will there be some version of an audit to see where we are on a checklist? Do you think, or is it too new to even know what it's gonna look like?
So they have revealed those policies there on the website, so that's for everybody. They're actually encouraging even local municipalities like the counties or
Okay.
cities to use them. They think that that will of course strengthen Maryland overall, but I personally have none.
Any reaction from our agency friends?
Doing similar related things. Luckily, we have a CIO, Chief Information
Oh,
Officer,
okay.
that takes on those work.
That's the difference, of course, between like a principal agency and an independent agency, and unfortunately, the statute doesn't really seem to consider that different units of governments have different resources.
I can connect you with our CIO, that's helpful, if you just need some guidance or.
Maybe, you know, maybe I'm not gonna say no.
You guys know I'm branch out.
Yes.
You can touch with the right
Yes.
person.
Yeah, and I think our real challenge here is what Mary was just hinting at, is for us, it's a portion of Anya's role. And it is not versus, I think she's been asked on a number of calls, like, just get your team to do this. And you're like, this is the full team, and in fact, not her only responsibility. And so that's where we certainly don't want to be the weak link at any point for the state here. But in terms of the length of time it takes us to comply and how flexibly we can comply, I think are conversations we need to have, because obviously we need to be secure. But this is maybe not something we can bootstrap with currently available resources.
Does Frank have any cyber, or do you just run? I mean, you do a great job with what you do. Are you?
Not to put you on the spot.
If you're working together, your world is cyber-ish, okay. I guess all of our worlds are cyber-ish.
Yes.
Anymore.
And just related, I don't think there's official like state policy or requirements yet, but I know that different agencies are developing their like AI policies, for example, so like. We just did one of the controllers office, I don't know if that's something that we can share ours too, yeah.
So we,
I was gonna say, Anya, I think is actually on the AI.
yeah, we actually have an AI policy that we, actually, we have adopted it, so we are using it.
Anya required AI training that was due last Saturday, the full staff applied, so.
And was there a picnic afterward?
Actually,
Yeah, Ryan, you don't.
Well, we have to go through cybersecurity training all the time, because I'm with the Department of Defense. We're engineers, it's just, we have to do annual training. But, you know, the annual training involves, if you see an email that looks.
Yes.
that has an attachment,
Yes.
there's an avenue to forward that to the appropriate party to actually, investigate it. And-
Frank.
Right.
He said that,
Yeah,
Frank.
so just having employees aware of
Yes.
of
Yeah.
what they should do if something like that were to occur.
Mhm.
That's really all you can do beyond.
Yes, that's exactly what I try to do. I try to make people aware that they should not be opening it, but if they do open it, it's too late at that point, you know?
Yeah,
But still, please call me so we can get that laptop and get it inspected. Another just can't.
I took a trip.
Darren's offline, but we had some really excellent people at the University of Maryland that send out periodic, this is the scam of the week. So all of you just stop calling me, stop opening it. And it goes across the whole, well, at least the whole college. She's retired and she still sends out messages. Some of us just can't. Yeah, I just sends us regular. Yeah, well, thank you, because I keep getting a text about a parking violation in Baltimore City, and I've not been in Baltimore City for 2 years. I do not. Billy. Billy. I've gotten better at that. Okay, next on, stream restoration.
So stream restoration has been very exciting. As you know, the stream restoration project is taking place behind the produce market. And so it's between the produce market and Route 1. If you want to take a ride when you leave here and drive down Route 1 and see where it's all been cleared, it's really nice. They've done a great job. The as-built survey will be coming in a few weeks. It'll be evaluated and identified. Can you hear me, Becky? Okay. Evaluated and identified and make any minor adjustments that may be required. Following that, we'll do the tree planting, which should happen in April and May. And then live staking, I expect to look that up. Because I wasn't exactly sure. The live staking can't be done during warm weather. It has to be done in cold weather, so that'll take place in January or February of 2027. The submission of the as-built should go to the Army Corps of Engineers soon. And we anticipate that being back to us in June of 2026.
So what is life stake?
Yeah.
So live staking, I was hoping nobody would ask. So live staking is basically, it's the stream, it's the erosion of the stream walls or,
Picture, that's not.
no, actually, I did this with personal questions, I'll send this down.
Okay.
But basically what they do is they do live staking, it's a plant with a stake, and they put it on the
The wall.
the wall, the slope, thank you. I was looking for that. The slope of the.
Yeah, okay.
And they have to do it at a certain time of year, if not, they won't take.
It won't work.
And yeah,
Like a tree?
yeah, a tree, a plant, something indigenous to the,
Environment.
no, to Maryland.
Tied to the stake.
I could see, yes, to the stakes to itself.
So yeah, so I had looked at it, and what that does is just stabilizes the bank.
Right, okay.
And then, if there's no questions on the stream.
Yeah.
Frank, you throw the pond up there, and I hope to have pictures of the, stream restoration the next time. As Frank puts that up there, I wanna say that this is Miriam and I's favorite conversation. This is the most important thing to Miriam. Tells me all the time.
Everybody feels like a stepchild, and you're treating everybody fairly here.
So, we started a pond analysis in 2023. And we got the report, we received the report in June of 2024. Which is then when Miriam and I started this venture of trying to figure out who actually takes advantage of the use of the pond. So we can start possibly getting some revenue back.
Like a fish.
No.
They
So-
benefit from adjoining property.
Oh, adjoining property, okay.
That's
Great. Back to.
The analysis shows all the properties that actually have inlets into the pond.
Gotcha, okay.
So like that development over there to the right, would they be or not? Or because of all the wood? The woods, they would.
In the far right corner?
Yeah.
So yes, there's a portion of that building that does contribute to the pond. There was our consultant came in and did an overview for everyone, which was really helpful, and there's actually like a big loop around the pond that different companies actually contribute to the pond. It's a big loop from when the original food center was developed.
Okay.
So I think that's the trick, right, though. So this pond is 40+ years old. And when it was put in, the Food Center Authority owned essentially all the land that drained into it. And then as parcels of land have been sold off, the obligation to maintain the pond has stayed with us as those other companies have begun to benefit from its existence. Keep going, Gary.
I was done, I was appreciating.
So the big other thing to think about here is, so we had an inspection come through that there are improvements the pond needs to stay functional. And so to the tune of about $80,000. And so we did include money in the budget. We are covered in our budget to cover these improvements, but I think to Gary's point, this is a lot of ongoing maintenance for this authority for something that certainly has a shared benefit. And so I think expect to hear more from us in terms of how we want to tackle that. Because Gary, I don't know what your thoughts are, but the 80,000 that we are on the hook for now to satisfy the county requirements is probably not the full maintenance that will be needed over the coming years.
Yeah, that's true. So it depends on when the inspection takes place as well. I'm not gonna give everything away, but sometimes when the inspection takes place, there's some things that they don't notice.
Always.
It's a good thing and a bad thing, because it can come back and bite us later. But overall, Yeah, it's the amount of money that's being spent on the pond is overwhelming.
So is it the county or is it MDE, the
County,
the county?
though I think MDE could decide here.
Yes, MDE puts out sort of like the state level requirements and then the jurisdictions, the political subdivisions enforce such.
Because you said benefit other entities are benefiting from the pond in the sense of, what is the benefit that, you said that they have inlets? So I'm a little concerned about environmental pollution, if there is a chance of those entities moving into the pond too.
So, sorry, go finish. So yes, we've had, outside companies around the area that have polluted the pond. And then we were responsible for getting someone to come in and went back out and tracking down who it was. And the last time this happened, the last two times it happened, we found the contributors. And we were able to get them to take the responsibility and pay for all the expenses to the spill.
But in terms of water quality and water quantity management, the pond is important. Because that is what helps us achieve those benefits. I think our concern is that being on the hook to pay for ongoing maintenance as well as others contaminants. And so that's where, at least in that case, they did take responsibility for their contamination. I think the issue is, but the ongoing maintenance is still significant.
And the reason why we would like the county to take the pond over is because the county has a lot more control over all of, entities around the pond and the ones that contribute into the pond. And they're able to give fines and fees to them. And we're unable to do that as of right now. I think Miriam's gonna help us out.
Essentially said, tough luck, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, this,
Yeah, there's, don't float any false hope that the county's gonna take it on that,
They're not.
yeah.
okay, they're not gonna.
No, they have no interest in taking it back, and being responsible for it. What we have learned is that several of the adjoining property owners who have developed on the property that they purchased from the authority years and years ago got exemptions for having to have stormwater management on their own plots because they drain into the authorities. Exactly. So, I mean, that I think does give the authority some basis for trying to negotiate a maintenance agreement. And if an amicable negotiation doesn't work out, to try and go forward and make an argument that these entities benefit and therefore should be required to contribute. It's just not as nice and easy as we would all like it.
Not nice and
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
I understand the county doesn't wanna take it back, but can the county at least facilitate a conversation with the entities, with the surrounding owners and say, well, you had this exemption in the past for somewhat benefits, but now the things are different and you should pay, and at least they facilitate the fees or the fines.
That's not a conversation that I've had with anybody at the county. But yeah,
Actually, that was addressed to them and they refused.
well, there you go.
We strongly worded it and they still said. So those houses look relatively new. Is that in their HOA stuff that they're, whatever, goes into the pond?
No, the houses don't contribute.
Oh, okay,
It's only-
okay, so it's
it's
just
only the business.
immediate,
It's
immediate.
That are surrounding the homes that are happening.
Yes.
We're not gonna find an HOA, so that's a little, that's, and then, cause.
And I wanna say, I didn't mean to put Miriam on the spot at all. There's a lot of things that were done before Miriam. And I just tease her that every time I come to her,
Have you
it's
solved
always
it
about
yet?
pond.
The grandfathering philosophy. And things were easier,
Yeah.
things were easier. And we've suffered because of that. I don't know, that's editorial, sorry. Thank you. That's a big pond.
Yes.
Approximate gallons or, no, that's
It's
still a big
varies.
pond.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, okay. Another group I'm working with has one at the Anne Arundel County Fairgrounds, so by the way, just, anyway, that's another. I just learned more than I thought I needed to know, but now I have keywords. Okay, any other updates? Kate?
None for me.
Okay. Revenue and expenses are,
They are the second to last thing in your book. And these are the statements for October, which I appreciated lagging a bit longer than we would like. So look for that to become more current in the future. And there is not a lot of there. You'll see that October 25, and the first 4 months of the fiscal year 26 tracked really similar to where they were a year ago, with slightly increased expenses. But in general, there's not really anything to note or any big surprises here. This was obviously before the winter season where we always talk about how good it is to run a surplus in case there's a lot of snow. Given that we've been able to handle snow in-house, we're in a pretty good shape where we sit right now.
Do you manage the concrete ice, Gary, in-house, or do you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The concrete snow, that I hired a Bobcat for, the January snow. Were you guys able to do that in-house?
Yes, oh, no, we were, so compliment Mark's team, most of the snow. And we've had complaints from the tenants on this, most of the snow is down to the pavement by the time that occurred. Yeah, that part occurred down to the pavement,
Okay,
it was areas that most people don't want to.
okay, well, good.
Yeah.
My Bobcat driver is in my favorites now.
Yeah, usually, snowstorms, we don't get this lucky, but during snowstorms, doing the plowing and the clearing after the storm is the best time. But this particular storm, if you did that, that was bad this time.
Hopefully we don't have to use that knowledge anytime soon, yeah. Any questions? Because we do. Yes,
Yes,
Okay, right, yeah.
the expense line items. Have we considered the stormwater management expenses as a reimbursable item?
So stormwater has bounced around. I think it was initially contemplated as that, but we have not billed back the project at this point. If the board has specific thoughts on that, they should share it.
What would you say the percentage of tenants are benefiting from the stormwater management pond that we have expenses associated?
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant, I misheard. I was thinking stream restoration. Stormwater management is billed back, correct, Gary?
Yes, let's go back to all the tenants that we know that, all of our tenants that we will contribute to.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, apologies, sorry.
that's okay. Which line item is that in the expenses?
So the folks that we, this is for Maryland Market Center.
Gotcha.
But like, so say NAFCO or BTS, they're built separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
The snow expense, is that on here?
This is October.
This is October.
That's October. I was just
Good heavy frost, but.
wondering, we had a heavy snow load this winter. Just wondering how close our budget was to our expenses this year. If we had enough funds or if we had a deficit there.
So the only expenses around snow that we had were related to overtime. We did not bring any third party folks in. So we are good as long as we're not having a blizzard next week.
You didn't say that. Good. Again, thank you and your teams here, that's fabulous. Okay, so I will accept a motion to accept the R&Ds for both the Fish Market and the Maryland Market Center. Thank you, Ben. Second, Wendy. And just for Carlton and Stephanie, we've got some wonderful landscaping going on outside, so. I don't know if you'll be able to hear that, but we sure can. Talk over it. Okay, we have a motion by Ben, second by Wendy, to approve the Market Center and produce markets. Revenue and expenses, all in favor? Aye. Okay, Carlton, are you still with us? All opposed? Any abstains? Okay, I think they're approved. Okay. Alrighty, any other general stuff before we go into closed session?
Okay, we go.
Sure.
Your snow removal efforts, I'm assuming we used for that. How did they hold up? Do you have a need for replacements, additional maintenance coverages for the additional wear and tear this winter?
So there's always equipment that breaks. We have a few pieces of equipment that we do have to repair. Probably just one substantial, that, tractor failed and we're having an engine for it. Outside of that, it's just normal wear and tear, and then there are things in the market that's, you can't see, just things like that, just normal stuff.
And we have the funds to replace.
We have, well, no. We hope to get the funds in the next budget. Right now, we'll probably end up, obviously we'll have these snowstorms between now and the end of the year, but next year, we want to just rent a piece of equipment, we can take the place of that equipment until we can get the equipment fixed.
Is there anything we can do to get it repaired between now and next winter so you don't have to rent the equipment?
Sure.
It's always priced it on here recently.
Yeah. We'll get the pricing.
Engine.
The people prepared for this particular piece of equipment, we'll get all the pricing together and then we'll present it to you. And then we'll see what you.
Okay, so sounds good.
Anne Arundel County Young Farmers are having an auction this weekend. There's nice tractors that if they can sign, I don't know if it's just. I'm not gonna give you a pot of cash to take to them.
Do you think it would be more cost effective to just replace the entire tractor or just replace the engine?
So that's what we're evaluating. The piece of equipment is fairly, we consider it new, normal state agencies wouldn't consider it new.
Because how old is it?
Because
It's not.
It's a 2009.
Yeah.
And most companies get rid of this, their equipment within 3 years. We'll probably replace the engine, versus getting, so a new piece of equipment that we'd like to replace it with is about $80,000. To replace the engine should be around 25 to 30,000. And we also have the ability to get backhoe attachments.
Oh.
Because we're looking at, not to start another conversation, looking at doing our in-house rail repair.
Sounds good.
Cool. We like to talk about tractors. Some of them are tractors. Don't know a whole lot else. Okay, if there's no other business. I will accept a motion to end the regular session and go into executive session. Under the general provisions of Article 3-305B. Consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. Consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. And discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. And can I have a motion? Oh, and at the end of the executive session, we will take a motion to adjourn and the entire meeting will conclude. Anybody want me to read that again?
No.
I think I have all the semicolons right now, maybe. Thank you. So it's been moved. Is there a second? Thank you. Who was the first? Susan's moved and Wendy second. Okay, I think this is a motion that we don't get any discussion on. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Any abstentions? Okay.
No.
Okay, we're passed. Okay, I'm gonna pause.